Welcome back. Again, it is Fela Durotoye on the program today. Welcome.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Right, okay. So, under what party are you running at the moment?
Well, I'm a presidential candidate of the Alliance for New Nigeria Party. I always like to say it's a party with a logo of the lion. And we are the party that will not only make the difference, but bring the difference to the experience that people have about politics and governance. Our values as a party are three: transparency, integrity, and excellence. And more importantly, I think we always like to say we're not politicians, we're technoticians, which are technocrats, policy makers, but are now taking political office and going into elective office rather than just wait for appointments, which is what typically happens. And even when you, as we've seen over the past, when most people who are really great ideas come into appointed offices, the elected officials are the ones who really drive whatever the real framework is, and based on their own selfish agendas or whatever it is. So we are not politicians, we are technoticians, we're different, and Nigerians will see the difference.
Right.
For an Alliance for New Nigeria.
Right, okay. I think every party will say the same thing. They will tell you something sets them different from every other party. What sets you different?
Well, first of all, I think, like I said, we've got a completely new set of people. Most of us have never had political experience, and a lot of people.
Do you think that would work against you?
Well, again, if I want to ask, has political experience worked for Nigeria or worked against Nigeria? I think political experience has worked against Nigeria, because we have a nation today that is blessed but has not become a fully great nation because of the people who are in power, and they have political experience. Political experience has brought us a nation that is as blessed as we are, yet we have the largest number of people living in abject poverty. That is political experience there. Political experience is the nation that has brought us a nation in darkness, where we've invested so much money, billions of dollars in the power grid and all of that, and we still have darkness. So political experience has brought us that. Every time you see potholes on the road, political experience is what we should applaud. Every time you start a generator to get power, political experience is what we should congratulate. Every time we have to go and put on a borehole to be able to get water out of our taps, that's political experience at work there. The political experience has knocked out health from our hospitals, has knocked out education from our schools, has knocked out safety from our roads. Political experience has brought us all that. What we need right now is leadership experience, and that's what is missing. Most of those who have political experience don't really have any evidence of leadership experience. They've started something and grown it and made it great. They've not birthed new industries. They've not. So what we've had so far that has brought us the Nigeria we have is politically experienced people who have had great experience in things like, I call them chopology, which is something that they mostly, but just essentially, in corruption, in killings, in character assassinations, and that's what politics does and trains us to. But now we're saying we need a new set of people with new ideology, people who have run things before, people who have grown businesses before, people who understand the role of private sector, because they themselves have played a huge part in private sector development. And that for us is, and we just want a new Nigeria. We don't want a better Nigeria than what we have today. We want a new Nigeria where that works for, not just where things work, but that works for everyone. A new Nigeria where there are opportunities for all to be able to work and make things work. And I think that's what it is. Jobs and opportunities is what we're promising to Nigeria. And we want to do it on the platform of transparency, integrity, and excellence. That's what we promise to do in governance. Right.
Talking about jobs, unemployment rate is on the high at the moment. What's your plan to correct that?
Well, it's really simple. And when we say simple, it doesn't mean it's not hard work. But to be able to get jobs back, we've got to be able to empower. We've got to be able to create an enabling environment for the private sector to be able to grow. And when the private sector grows, the private sector is the largest employer of labor that is sustainable. And so for us, it's you build the people and make them not only employable, but create what you call job centers, create a database. Today, it's very difficult for even those who are looking to hire to find the people that they want to hire, because as opposed to what you'll find in the United Kingdom, the United States, there is no database of people who are looking for work. And so one of the things we want to do is use technology to create that database and get to be able to easily pair those who are looking for work with those who need skills and would like to be able to hire them. So we want to make it easy for people to hire skills and develop those who need those skills, but more importantly, get the companies to grow. If we create an enabling environment for these companies, they will grow. And once they grow, they will hire, and that's one of the things. Driving it through a lot of things like security. Yes, we do want to hire. We want to scale up our security police force, for instance, to about 750,000 police officers. That's double what we have today. Okay, so there is some dimension of employment you can create in that. But the greatest way to create employment is to empower the young people with skills so that they can start their own businesses, they can grow their own businesses, and then generally create an enabling environment for the existing businesses to grow. And once you can do that, you will get jobs. But most importantly, you see there are natural resources across all of Nigeria, in all 774 local governments. What we're trying to do and what we will do when we get into government is to make sure that each one of those local governments becomes like an industrial hub, where the things that are the resources in that hub become a place where you can process, you can package, you can prepare them for export and for local consumption. And so for me, I think that's the most important thing: diversifying our economy and diversifying our economic base to the local government areas, and making sure that we empower the local government areas to become those industrial hubs. And as we do that, there will be jobs and opportunities all across Nigeria. We won't have to rely on people going to the cities. Now we can take the jobs back to the local government areas, which is usually seen as the rural areas, and therefore we decongest the cities. Therefore, there are opportunities all across. Everywhere people can feel like they're part of Nigeria that is getting better. Today, most parts of Nigeria feel marginalized because nothing really is happening there. There are no roads to be able to get. So even when they do plant, as we know, 66% of our harvest gets lost between the farmland and the marketplace. So our farmers are living in penury. There are no hospitals, there are no infrastructure in the rural areas, and yet that's where most of the resources of Nigeria is located. So we need to go back to our roots, you know what I mean? So and go back to basics in the local government areas and have this, what I call, special economic hubs.
Right. You talked about road infrastructure.
Yes.
Now, Nigeria has borrowed so much money in the name of putting in place good infrastructure. What would you do differently? Well, first, are we still going to, or let's put it this way, is Nigeria still going to be borrowing a lot more without actually seeing what it's being used for?
Look, first of all, let's just remember that those who borrowed money never really wanted to fix infrastructure. Much of the money that they borrowed was to be able to recoup the monies that they needed to pay back those who funded their elections, and then to save enough for the next election. So much of the borrowing that Nigeria has gone through is not really, and we haven't seen any of the effects of the borrowings on the lives of people, on the welfare of people, on the quality of life and standard of living, because much of that money has been stolen, and we know that. Their statistics, I mean, the numbers are there. So first of all, what we need to do is to make sure that we partner with the private sector. There are many funding options apart from just purely borrowing to be able to get things done. Public partnership is what works in almost every nation across the world. Does that
mean it's going to work in Nigeria, though? I was in this country 4 years ago, facilitating for companies and encouraging investors into Nigeria, aiming for them to be able to go into some sort of public-private partnership. And I'll tell you, that wasn't really encouraged.
You know why?
It didn't really work.
Exactly for the same reason that I spoke to you about. Those who ruled us for many years wanted power. And with power came the two things: denying access to ordinary people, ordinary investors, from being able to do what it is that they could easily do in any other country apart from Nigeria, so that they could control the power and the influence that they have. But secondly, most of them put their own selfish ambitions and began to say, we want, you know, percentages of the businesses that you will bring into Nigeria. And those guys are saying, for what? You know, you're not bringing anything in, you're just doing an approval. I mean, a state in Nigeria lost the opportunity to have one of the largest refineries being built in it because one of the governors was asking for a cut in it. Yeah, so we see these things where over the years, those politicians that have brought us the nation that we do not want have injected themselves as cogs in the wheels of progress, especially towards foreign investment. And what we're saying is, That's not who we are. We will not only remove those cogs in the wheels, we will accelerate the process. We'll make it easy for you to do business in Nigeria.
How? That's the question.
Oh no, first and foremost, again, it comes down to...
Because it's not a very easy environment to do business in.
So the question is, why is it easy to do business in other countries and not Nigeria? What makes it difficult? It's the people. It's the politicians, it's the elected officials, the appointed officials, who then influence the kind of people and the culture of your civil service. So it's not as difficult as people think, right? It's just that those who, the how is, let's get people who have a reputation to protect, who have a track record of success in the things that they've done. Let's get those guys into the political space. Let's get those guys elected into office. Now that how is a completely different ballgame, but we're already doing it. And we know that we have a majority of Nigerians who have not been involved in the electoral process, who simply have been waiting for people like us to run. Many Nigerians, and the highest number of Nigerians, first-time voters, getting their voters' cards. But that's not even in all. In 2015, 96 million people were above the age of 18, right? 68 million voters' cards had been issued by our Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. But only 28 million votes, including regain, vote buying, vote stuffing, ballot box stuffing. When they did all of this, the establishment was only able to mobilize 28 million votes. Let's even assume that every vote was a bona fide voter, which it wasn't, but let's just assume that. That means 40 million people who went ahead to get their voters card still did not want to get involved with the existing. So the majority of Nigerians have rejected the establishment, but they have not actively chosen an alternative. That is what we hope that we'll be able to get in 2019. 2019 elections is not going to be an election between the two parties or any of those things. No, 2019 elections is going to be a choice between the old Nigeria and the new Nigeria. It's a choice between the old politicians and the new generation of nation builders that will build Nigeria into the most desirable nation to live in.
Right. I want to touch on healthcare, which is very important, especially the vulnerable, women, children. I'm not saying men are not important. I'm just saying, yeah, you look after one woman, you look after a nation, like they say. So what is your plan in terms of healthcare? I want to give something out here. When Fela, when he was in office, before he actually became the Minister for Works and Power, he did say something about, oh, it should be fixed in 6 months as you get into office. Well, that sector is still there now, and I think it's even getting worse. It's deteriorating.
Well, so now he said that maybe we'll have power in 2021.
Well, there you go. So would that not, is that not going to be the same thing in your case? If we talk about healthcare, how are you going to fix this thing? Okay,
so let me quickly talk about, just before I touch on healthcare, can I just quickly talk about why it is that people who delivered some dimension of excellence at some point in time get into higher levels of office, or as it is, and then can't deliver? Because it boils down to who has the highest level of executive power. When Governor Fela was governor, he was the chief executive, and therefore his values you could see the way that he helped to make Lagos work, and things did work in Lagos and got better. But as a minister, he's not the chief executive. So this is why it's important that you choose your president very carefully, because your president and the values of your president, the energy of your president, the work ethics of your president is going to dovetail into your entire civil service structure, and it will affect your economy, the private sector, and all of that. It's important to do that. Okay, so let me quickly come back to what it is that we will do specifically in the area of healthcare. The goal is to make healthcare affordable and accessible to everyone in Nigeria, regardless of where you are. Every Nigerian deserves to have good healthcare. And we need 200 million strong people, not weak people, not 200 million weak and ignorant people. That's human population without them becoming human capital. We need 200 million strong, intelligent, skilled workers who can add value to the economy. And to be able to make sure that they are healthy, there are three most important areas that we'll be looking at. Number one, we'll be looking at our, what you call our healthcare practitioners, all right? How do we make sure that we keep our best hands and stop losing them as brain drain? Number two, how do we invest in infrastructure, which includes not just the hospitals, but making sure that we have the right equipment and all of that. And number three, and I think it's the most important one, is how on earth are we going to make sure that, that people live right, that people themselves it's reorienting our people to know that they must have living habits that will prevent diseases. So if we can slow down the rate of diseases and make sure people wash their hands before they eat, that people live clean and we take care of sanitation, and they live healthy, they eat healthy, all of that would also help to slow down the rate of which we acquire diseases, and of course then, but more important things is making sure that we invest. Rekia, the reality is that as where Nigeria is today is completely unacceptable as relates to healthcare. We're currently rated 187 out of 190 countries as it relates to the quality of our healthcare institutions. We're losing our doctors in droves. 9 out of 10 Nigerian medical doctors are looking actively for opportunities outside Nigeria. So we do have a huge brain drain going on in our healthcare, and so to reverse that, there are a few key things that need to be done. Number one, we must invest in education, in healthcare, and making sure that we focus on the healthcare practitioners, on the infrastructure, which is where they work, so that they can actually deliver desirable outcomes, and most importantly, to make sure that they are able, people have access to that. And access for us is especially looking at the health insurance scheme and making sure that we take the corruption out of that scheme, making sure that the health maintenance organizations, the HMOs, are able to actually pay the hospitals for delivering quality health care, and that the patients do have access.